Hey, it's Friday, October 31st, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, right here on the West Coast. I am Brannon, Beliso. This is Success Never Sleeps, where we as a collective of small business owners, in particular, martial arts school owners, are just trying to figure out this thing called life, right? We want to create businesses that work for us. We're able to fulfill our versions of success. For me, it's taking care of my family, my team, giving back to the community, saving for retirement, paying off our home, all these different things. And I share them with you because we each have a different version of success. And whatever that mean for you, I hope you're tuning in with us today and you're hanging out. Cool. So let's begin by thanking our sponsors, to Market Muscles, My Studio, Kids Love Life Skills, LC Accounting, Kin Creative. They're all services that I actively use. And that's the big difference. I'm not just an influencer or brand ambassador. I use these products, these services in my businesses. They're proven for me in my businesses. So that's why I can stand on my platform and advocate for them, because I physically use them in my businesses and I've reaped the benefits. So I'm grateful to share that with everybody. All right. So what do we got coming up, man? We're about a week away from It's Time Life Freedom. Right here in Millbrae, California, 5 minutes from San Francisco Airport. Still a couple of spots left. I had somebody reach out from Germany, Marco, and they were thinking of coming out, but then it didn't work out that way. I was hoping they would. It would have been nice. We have a couple of spots still available. Whether you want to bring your team out for one day on Saturday to take our instructors training experience and see how we generate $2 million a year in revenue through our curriculum, or you want to stay for 2 days and get some business training, or stay for the 4, we still have a couple of spots left. And if you really want to, take a leap of faith, and they've done that before. I had some guy come out from, I think it was Australia or England, on a week's notice, and it totally made their change that they needed in their business. Do that. Sometimes with radical change comes radical results, right? And that's what today's show is all about. The cost of comfort, in your mindset and the way you think. So Marco will put the link in there, and I hope through just not today's show, but all the time, that you might find that. I had a gentleman yesterday on my Kin Creative group call, and he's been following me for years. He said what we did during the pandemic influenced him greatly and helped his business greatly. I said, why didn't you ever say hi and connect and reach out, And he said, well, I said, nah, I mean, reaching out to people, doing those types of things that are going to serve you, that are going to help you, I think are really, really, really important. So as you come aboard, say hello. Tell me where you're tuning in from if you're here. I always love to know who's hanging out. And while we're waiting on that, I'm just going to share a little bit about Halloween, since it is Halloween and it's one of the most kid-centric holidays of the year. So I know you want to know about the cost of comfort, right? That mindset. But so Halloween for us has been a month-long experience. I kid you not. We start by decorating the school, right, which creates the festive mood. My wife is making candy bags. It's literally been about 3 weeks or so, and she's still making up the ones for our home. We have roughly 300 to 400 people here at our home tonight. Cotton candy. It's a huge community event. It's a cultural thing, and it really is. I'm big on relationships. I'm not big on transaction. So when we talk about business, they go, what do you mean? Everything's transactional. They give you money, you give them something in return. Yeah, but it can be seen through a different lens. It's a relational. The money they invest is because of the relationship they have with you, right? Like the guy I work with, Sam, on. It's because of our relationship that I do investing with him. If I didn't trust Sam, believe in Sam as a person, I wouldn't be working with him. So it's the same thing here. We use Kin Creative, right, for our digital media. I believe in Kin. We have a relationship. Same thing with my studio. Tulay and I have a relationship. I believe in him. So even when the earliest stages of my studio, I was aboard. So I really want you to think about that. We did 3 trunk or treats, right, which we facilitated really well. The 3 main elementary schools in our area, again, relational. We invested a lot of time into that. We had the cotton candy machine at a my son's homecoming football game, again, supporting the Boosters Club, the Athletic Boosters Club, with our concession stand with cotton candy, right? We had that. We had two big Halloween parties, one at each location, maxed out, relational, right? Not transactional. And then that'll culminate with tonight. I think we spend roughly $4,000 to $5,000 on cotton candy, and we really create this Disney experience. Case in point, on Saturday at the elementary school I was at, the line was an hour long. Can you believe it? The line was 1 hour long. And it's just mind blowing, right? It's a trunk or treat. But each kid came into the booth. I learned their name. I worked with them personally for 2 to 3 minutes. They broke a board, then they got this bag of candy. And I stayed. Everybody was gone by 6:30 when the event ended. My line was there until 7:15. When I was done, I was the only car in this parking lot of this elementary school. It was pitch black. And we talk about relational. That last person in line, that dad was so thankful. And the kid was shy, didn't want to break a board, um, didn't want the candy at first. So I gave him candy, gave him a couple of boards, started packing up. I looked out in the distance. I could see their shadows at the edge of the parking lot, you know, and they were breaking the board. And that's what it's about, folks. I can't express that enough. I can't express that enough. Now, getting into today's subject, what is the cost of comfort mindset? What is the cost of it? It's tremendous. Because the thing about comfort, we don't even know, but we don't know, right? As the cliche goes, you don't know what you don't know. Think about that for a minute. You don't know what you don't know. And that's every day. We do it in our personal relationships. And then when somebody's leaving that relationship, you go, I didn't know, right? Because you're so comfortable, or complacent is a better word. You get so complacent in what you do, right? That you don't think outside of a fixed mindset. That fixed mindset is your limitation. That fixed mindset is that comfort. That fixed mindset is the complacency that's actually blinding you from the real solutions for your personal life, your business, for everything that might be right there in front of your face. But you have this veil, you have this wall of comfort, of complacency, of a fixed mindset that literally blinds you from the success that's right there, right there. So think about that for a moment. In your own personal space, your life, your business, your relationship, is there some place you believe you suffer from complacency, comfort, or a fixed mindset? Take a moment. Think about it. I want you to write it down. Now, in relationship to business, I think this is a really hard subject because it's not studying a key performance indicator, right? If I looked at this metric, third quarter sales are down. Why? Right? And I can physically make those changes strategically. The thing what we're talking about here, it's a very cerebral thing, right? It's esoteric. It's just an opinion. It's just a philosophy per se. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And my goal today is to either inspire you to believe in it, so you take action. That would be the best case scenario, right? Worst case scenario, you point fingers at me and say it doesn't work for you. Okay. Okay. But which one is going to serve you better? Because the thing I understand about comfort, unless I'm willing to change and do things differently in my business and my life, nothing will change. You with me? Do the same old thing, you get the same old results. If you really want different results in your life, sometimes it requires radical change. Radical change. And a lot of us don't like that because it's comfortable here, right? It's comfortable. It's so comfortable. I get that. And there's that peaceful, easy, warm feeling that's comfortable. But again, it's such a double-edged sword to, helping or hurting you from achieving those goals that you truly deserve. And I'm passionate about that because I've had so many changes in my life. And in the words of Van Halen, you got to roll with the punches to get to what's real, right? Remember that in the song Jump by Van Halen? Super important. You got to roll with the punches. And life's going to punch you many different ways, especially in your business and in your personal life. And your ability to roll with it is what's the flexibility, that fluidity that allows me to make changes in my business, in my mindset, and everything going on to get there. So I know I'm beating it like a dead horse, but if you continue with your fixed mindset, you're going to get the same results you've always gotten. As comfortable as that might be, as comfortable as that might be, I'm here to tell you, if you're not willing to change and move from a fixed mindset to a different mindset, preferably a growth mindset, nothing will change. Have I done that enough? Okay, so let's get into some of the things, how that impacts. I think number one is leadership and that growth mindset. Leading through change, I find, is probably the real test of your mettle, right? Because when you're going through changes, let's take the pandemic. That was a huge one for us. It was a really test of my leadership because nobody knew where they were going. Nobody, right? We're all in the dark. So, how do I make business decisions based upon an environment I have no control of? Open, shut down, wear a mask, not wear a mask. How do I make good business decisions to sustain my business? And how do I do any of that? Well, the one thing I embraced is that change was inevitable and it was right in our face. Life changed overnight. We're in a pandemic. So to lead people through change, like I said at Meta, when I was talking about global leadership post pandemic, I said the one thing that we can anchor ourselves in is each other, in the relationships that we've built with one another, right? That have probably seen a lot of different changes, maybe not as radical a change as a pandemic, but the relationships you've been in for a great period of time have gone through a lot of changes. Do we agree? Absolutely, right? Absolutely. So, with that said, that's what I leaned into. While we were negotiating this uncertainty, we're negotiating this change, I kept anchoring my team in here's what we've built together. Here's the relationship we have today of trust and love, how we lean on each other. Let's figure this thing out. And it was the best thing ever. I remember when the pandemic was ending, at least the indoor virtual stuff. And I said, this was magical. We'll never get this opportunity again. And they looked at me like I was nuts, but it wasn't, because we got to not only sustain ourselves, right, and beat the odds of not being one of the 30-40% of martial arts schools that closed. We were able to stay there, and that was magical. But it was my ability to lead through change that kept the team on board. You with me? Can you see that? Yeah. So because we welcome change, and change is always going to be there. This next one I'm sharing is what I shared in my group mentoring just before this call, is, moving from being a manager to a mentor. Now, I'm a control freak. I like controlling everything. But if I'm truly going to have a team that's going to make me independent of having to work in these businesses, then I need to trust them. I need to give them the sense of autonomy that they deserve. You with me? So if I'm always managing or micromanaging them, that's a bad day. It's Big Brother looking over your shoulder, making sure you do it right. So moving into a mentor took a big leap of faith, but it's one I recognize with any great company. Take your pick, Apple, Disney, whatever. That was necessary. And in the words of Walt Disney, when I took their Disney business course, one of the things Walt always did in a meeting when people had questions, which I think is brilliant, because if you're working on a movie for me, I don't know what scene in the Seven Dwarfs you're doing. You're drawing it, you're colorizing it. I have no idea what you're doing. And you're asking me a question about it. Think about that for a moment. But what they're saying is, you're my leader. You're the visionary here. I need your input. Is this a good path, a bad path? What is it? And Walt would reply with 4 simple words. What do you think? That's it. What do you think? So I'm going to challenge you to employ that. What do you think? What do you think? And so that became a very big one in moving from a manager to a mentor. Or it was simply micromanaging you and saying, well, you didn't do this right. You need to do step three in this system. You need to do that. And sure, I could manage that way. Managing people is not the same as mentoring them. And I hope I've helped you clarify that. Um, Man, this is still a big one for me. The power of self awareness. Okay, self awareness. Now, I think the reason none of us want to look at that, I think it implies two things. Because it's really about you, right? In the words of, who was that? De La Soul was the band, Me, Myself, and I. Self awareness requires that. It is of the self. So the negativity is, it's very selfish, self centered, self absorbed, which has a lot of negative connotation. But when self awareness is viewed through the lens of humility and to truly want to better yourself to serve your team, your family, your community, I can't help but think that you're in a good space. Now, when I talk about serving yourself, your community, your team, your family, I'm not talking about being a codependent, right? An unbalanced person whose life is unmanageable to feed somebody's sick behavior. I'm generally talking about that through serving my team or my family, I become more aware about what my purpose is. I become more aware on how to fulfill that need. You with me? So that's a big difference. It's not like I'm some person in a relationship and all my friends are going, get out of that relationship. It's abusive. It's awful. But I love them, right? Sure, I get that. We're not discussing that. What we're discussing is something very balanced, heartfelt, something very real, right? Very, that has depth to it. And that's the power of self awareness when done from a balanced viewpoint, because it's that self-awareness that says I need change. It's going to better, myself so I can fulfill my purpose at a higher level. Mine is live your best life. We know that, right? Wow. This is a big one, and as I move further away from my businesses down to teaching 1 day a week, I'm really, really working on moving from that comfort zone, because this it's comfortable for me to lead. It's comfortable for me to do the most talking when I'm in the room. It's comfortable for me to direct traffic. It's comfortable, but to create a culture of accountability without fear. Oh, ah, that's what I'm working on. And I share that again just a few minutes ago in our group mentoring. We radically changed our curriculum this year, and the numbers are proving it. We're at an 80% conversion rate, which is unheard of in our industry, but we're experiencing that only for a couple months now, but we're experiencing it. And to be able to create a culture, a working environment where people can be accountable without me dropping the hammer on them, reading them the riot act, as one would say, is super important, because any great business is going to go through changes. We welcome change. We love change. Change is how we get to the next plateau, the next level, right? But if we do it with fear, everyone's head's on the chopping block. Every time they make a mistake, every time they do something that isn't a system I wrote, right? Or the way I would do it. That's the worst one. Well, that's not how I would do it, right? We've all been there. And you cannot grow a great team without it. But if I'm comfortable doing everything myself, I'm comfortable not giving you the keys to the kingdom because I need to be this control freak, then I will never get to that level of freedom I deserve in my business and life. And it's just draining. Micromanaging people is horrible. So, how do we create a culture of accountability without fear? Any thoughts? Well, I think number one is to welcome mistakes. Number one is to even highlight mistakes in a loving, positive, nurturing way. I remember an instructor, and he was an assistant instructor at a school I was teaching at. And he always would say when somebody did something wrong, the wrong technique, and to this day, his name's Paul Shepard. I really took heart to this. He would say, that's a good idea. But for this technique, this is what we're doing. So I find myself borrowing that a lot. Hey, that's a really good idea, you know? It really is. But for right now, let's teach the technique this way because we have to teach it next week in class, right? Things like that. That's a good idea. So again, you want to always dispel the fear because people would say, "Wow, that was so easy. I was really afraid to bring that to you." And I would always ask, why? Well, I didn't want you to get mad at me. I didn't want you to think I was disrespectful. I didn't want you to think I was a team player. I said, no, I welcome your autonomy. I welcome your input. I welcome that. And every time I dispel that fear, the culture organically becomes an easier way to function in, right? Especially at a team level. It becomes easier and easier and easier the more they practice it, right? As long as I don't view it through a lens of, hey, don't talk back. You're being disrespectful. It's my way or the highway. And because every time I give them that brick wall, it's going to only shut them off further, right? They'll be ready to throw anybody on the team under the bus because they don't want to be put on the spot, chopping block, or put on the spot. So, again, creating a culture of accountability without fear has been phenomenal for us, phenomenal in everything that we do. So, think about that, okay? What about your culture currently that leave people in a state of paralysis where they won't bring something to you, right? Back in the day, I mean, the cliche for me was when my wife would say, nobody can talk to you. They're all afraid to talk to you. And I'm grateful that my wife said that because at first I'd get extremely defensive, but she was right. Nobody could talk to me because I created that. So when I recognize I'm the one who's created that working relationship with my team, I also recognize I have the ability to change that. Cool. Think about that. I think the big thing we recognize just in AI and everything going on that we're in a state of innovation and creativity. That's a big part. Now, people ask, how does that apply to the martial arts industry? Well, we can automate and systemize and streamline and leverage AI agents to intake people when they, opt in at your website, or people can take attendance through iPads, or I can do a social media post really fast about the Halloween party that doesn't require this cultural footprint, right? It's just a simple, you know, announcement. So be it. You should all be leveraging it. So that means you need to move from thinking like a competitor, thinking more like a creator. You're creating content, you're creating curriculum, you're creating systems to empower your team. You're a creator. But the minute I'm competing, I remember this one time I said that, when I teach, the attrition rate's lower, our retention's higher. Big effing deal. Big effing deal. How's that going to help you grow your school or empower your team? If anything, that intimidates them, feeds my ego. So I'm not competing with my team. I'm not competing with the competitor down the street. I'm not competing with kids' soccer, baseball, gymnastics, or anything. I am a creator. And you cannot create your best work if it's through the lens of being a competitor. I hope that makes sense because, like I said yesterday during my kid call, you're all creators. Make no mistake. Now, would I be using Soros and putting myself in some freaking AI generated movie? There's nothing creative about that at all. If anything, it's separating you from your creativity. I'm talking about you putting the pen to paper. I'm talking about you sitting down and designing things on your own, like a flyer. The more you do that, the more you're going to cultivate that, right? Now, beyond the announcement, you should be writing your social media posts, right? Mine is live your best life. I want my child to live their best life. So I invest in their future, one martial arts, where they're going to get life skills. They're going to get martial arts. But more importantly, you get that village to help you raise your kids. See, there you go. That's off the top of my head. I'm a storyteller. I know that's a huge impact on my business and my life. So I'm a creator. I create content, right? And that has allowed me to have one of the highest rated blogs when you Google martial arts blog at Google. I'm a creator. Oh, I'm not creative. I can't do that. Nobody's good at anything right away. But the more you practice it, guess what? Now, I know some people will say I have no interest in that. I understand that. But if you want to be successful in your business, then you need to accept you wear a lot of hats and you need to learn to wear them well, right? You're a janitor. Yep, I am sometimes, right? I'm a psychologist. Yep, The kid I'm talking to and the mom, sure, absolutely. You're a leader. You're a lot of things, right? You're a lot of things. And I think that is super important when we talk about going back to just the subject of comfort and complacency. If you don't recognize in your business, you need to wear a lot of hats and you need to wear them well, whether you like it or not, then that's never going to change. And that's why when we discuss the next thing, the discipline of creative flow, the discipline. I'm disciplined to know that I may not like this, but if I learn to do it well, it can help impact and grow my business. And maybe when I get good at it, guess what? I'm going to like it. See, that's the thing about discipline. Discipline detaches itself from the funky discomfort we all go through when we're starting something new, right? It's something new. I don't like it. I feel awkward. I feel inadequate, right? I feel subpar, right? Let me just be over here doing my famous form that I've done a million times since I was 5, where I feel like freaking Batman. I get that. I get that. But some of my best learning is done lying flat on my face. So by failing, right, or in the words of Buzz Lightyear, falling with style, I welcome the that. And so the discipline of the creative flow that I'm discussing is just simply do it. Nike isn't just think about it, right? And when the day's right and the timing's right, then I'm going to take action. Nike is 3 simple words. Just do it. It's the same thing here. But I don't do it with a certain result because I don't know what that result's going to be. I can hypothesize. So what I love about discipline, discipline is the act of doing, just doing it, right? So that I find is huge in shifting my mindset um, to make that movement. And this is a big one, if I'm going to get out of complacency, I need to cross industry, right? Cross industry. You know me. My inspiration comes from Apple. I love Steve Jobs. His thinking was radical. I look at people like Nike, Phil Knight, radical thinking at that time in the 70s. I look at Disney, who's rejected by everybody with his Steamboat Willie. Again, radical thinking, right? They're very inspiring to me. For me, within our industry, there's not a lot going on other than a CRM system or digital marketing. Tell me what's been really huge and earth shattering in our industry. Nothing other than BJJ and the UFC, right? And if you teach Taekwondo, you're not doing it. I teach Kenpo. I don't want to do that, right? So it really becomes about um, looking for inspiration outside our industry. And when we talk about the comfort of this fixed mindset, read The Mindset by Carol Dweck. She has nothing to do with the martial arts industry. Great book, great book, great book. I love Thich Nhat Hanh, The Miracle of Mindfulness, right? Again, it's about thinking for me and getting out of that comfort, that fixed mindset. I have to study things outside our industry because they're more inspirational to me. And I hope you choose to do the same. Um, I think I've already touched upon this. Fail fast, learn faster. Failure is often the shortest path to success. And if you want to move from that, see, we like the comfort because I don't have to fail, right? How hard is it to fail with a ream of chocolate chip cookies wrapped up in a blanket with the fire going, binge watching reruns of the Game of Thrones? How hard is that? It's not. You'll never fail. You'll never fail there. Put yourself out there and train for a 5K and run it on New Year's Day. Good chance you're going to fail. Good chance you're going to quit along the way, right? It's the same thing here. Fail fast, learn faster. Write that down, live it. And again, I love metaphors like the one from Toy Story, which I shared with you already. When he found out, that he wasn't this space ranger and he was just a toy. Man, falling with style. How brilliant is that? I'm not failing. It's not that I can't fly. I just fall with style. Again, I look for magic aha moments like that. And when I was watching Toy Story and I heard that line, I went, right? Or the one in Empire Strikes Back when Yoda's trying to lift the X-Wing fighter. Luke is trying to lift the X-Wing fighter out of the moat, and he can. And he goes, Yoda, I'm trying. And he says, that is why you fail. You either do or you don't. There is no such thing as try. Boom! Right? Mind blowing. Mind blowing. It is. And again, that's just like Nike. Just do it, not just try. So when you see things like that outside the industry, that cross industry inspiration is where I really learned about fail fast, learn faster. Cool. This is a big one, man. What gets me out of my complacency today, my fixed mindset, really is through communication and collaboration. I have learned so many great things from so many great people. But unless I'm willing to put myself out there and be vulnerable and collaborate with people, right, and communicate at a high level, then I'll never reach that place I want to be in. Because really, again, my purpose is to live your best life. I can't do that famous in my own mind. I need to expand that into a learning. And that requires me to collaborate with other people, right? I need to collaborate with my team on curriculum. I need to collaborate with the graphic people at Kin to produce better ads. I need to collaborate with my wife to be better parents to our kids. See where I'm going with that? So I welcome collaboration. And that means I need to be humble enough to actively listen. I need to be humble enough to say, you know what? Your idea is better than mine. Let's go with it. Right? That's what collaborating means. It's not, no, we're in a meeting. This is what I say. I am, the Lord of the land. Do it my way. Collaboration is not like that. I'm a musician. I started out as a jazz bass player, and we'd sit there and go, what key are we in? Okay, we're in the key of E flat. Go. And then we would collaborate and riff and play. And nobody said, play it this way, do it that way, must be like this. No, we just played and we collaborated through that. And through that type of open collaboration with your team, with your program director, right? With the people involved in your martial arts school, you communicate at a different level, right? But if you want to collaborate at a high level, you have to communicate at a high level. It's vice versa and vice versa, right? It works both ways. If I want to collaborate at a high level, I need to communicate at a high level. So what does that require of me? Man, number one is the art of healthy conflict. Ooh, I love it. That scene in Jerry Maguire where Cuba Gooding is fighting with Tom Cruise in the bathroom and they're yelling and screaming. And Cuba Gooding goes, hey, dude, you know, we're not fighting, we're talking, right? He welcomed that conflict. And so healthy conflict is not a bad thing. Healthy conflict only becomes bad, right, when it degrades into name calling, it degrades into finger pointing, right? But we can both agree to disagree. And through that information, we compromise and come up with a solution. What happens, though, is when things degrade, the communication becomes none. Whenever I'm in that position, I've been in that position several times with my team where it's like, you know, the only position I have to stand on is it's my way or the highway, right? It's my way or the highway. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Or I hate when I have to put on the boss hat and simply tell you, do it because I'm the boss, I pay you. That's a horrible place to exist in. Just horrid. And I don't want to exist in that space. But when the conversation degrades to that level, my only go to is I'm the boss, do it my way, I pay you. That is not communicating, that is not collaborating. But I've ended up there and it's not the place I want to be. So if I'm a better communicator, then that facilitates that. So what is the key, to be better communication? Number one, active listening. Active listening. Not just listen as lip service and go, ah, yeah, right, great. No, actively listen. If I want to be a great leader, I need to actively listen to my team and I need to execute for my team. Actively listen through purpose. Live your best life. Is what this person's saying to me going to help us live our best life? If it does, I'm all over it. So again, active listening will really improve my communication skills. And we already discussed this, and I'll discuss it more. Storytelling for influence. You want to influence people, right? Not use some sales script and get one over on them, right? I'm talking about telling stories that inspire people, influencing them to make better buying decisions, to sign up in your school, right? Influencing your team, but vice versa, where they influence you, where you're willing to make changes in your mindset and that complacency to help fulfill your purpose, which in turn will earn you more money. Make no mistake. If all it is about making money, I lean into sales scripts, upgrades, high pressure stuff. I lean into all that. but I don't want transactional. I want relational. And the only way to get people to relate to you is if they believe in you, they want to be in a relationship with you. Same thing with my team. Same thing with my team. And the only wedge I drive between me and my team or me and potential new students is my fixed mindset. Cool. This is a big one. I find ego sabotages ideas. Ego sabotages that creative collaboration and that communication. And if you want people, when you ask them, no, I don't want to tell you my idea, it's stupid. It's because previously you've done something that you may not be aware of that shot down their ideas and they don't feel like they can bring these ideas to the table. Yeah. I think I shared that in the last call, group mentoring. I just redid all these curriculum videos. It's been, I don't know how many hours. And out of these 72 or 78 videos, the team wants me to redo about 15 of them. And when they brought it to me, they thought I was going to lose my shit. Can I say that? Yeah, I was going to lose my shit. I didn't. I said, guys, this is awesome. Let's go through it point by point, make sure I'm clear on what you need, and I'll go back and get it done. And they were like, wow, man, wow. And see, that's it. That's it. All day, every day, right? All day, every day. So I make sure I don't sabotage those types of communication sessions with that. So they need to feel safe. They bring an idea to you. They want the safety. You're not going to shoot it through full of holes and, you're blasphemous. How dare you bring that to my attention. Let me see how we're doing on time. So again, it's like crickets in the night. People don't want to think about this type of work because it's very cerebral, right? It's not just something you go, ooh, wonderful, right? It's really hard work. And it's not instant gratification. That's why if I do a podcast, how to get 10 new students, tons of people come. If I talk to you about your comfort zone, it's funky. Nobody wants to know. You don't want to pull back someone's covers and tell them, hey, man, you suffer from a fixed mindset. Nobody wants to hear that. Yet, it's probably one of the biggest reasons people never reach their potential. People never achieve their version of success. It's because of that. I wish I could tell you different, but I can't. Every indication in the world I've ever seen, from not only my world, but other examples from world leaders to successful billionaires to entrepreneurs to coaches to players to everything I've researched and studied, it really lives and dies in that fixed mindset, right? Somebody interviewed Steph Curry the other day, and they said, we notice, after you missed 2 free throws the other night, you sat there and you smiled next time you stepped up to the line. And he says, yeah, because, beating myself up over the 2 free throws I missed, I'm gonna make a difference when I go to shoot the next one. So to have a positive mindset, Steph Curry talked about as a human being going through imposter syndrome. Let me get this straight. You got a gold medal, 4 championships, you changed the games of basketball, and you, Steph Curry, suffer from imposter syndrome? What the heck? Think about that for a moment, folks, because we all suffer from the condition of being human. Being human. So, purpose and culture. Now, when the day's done, Brannon Beliso is all about purpose before profits. I don't run a transactional business. I run a relational business. The relationship takes precedent over all. And the classic example of this in our industry is when you see a former student in the mall with their parents and they just kind of look the other way and walk in another direction. You didn't exit them right. Again, in our culture, we're grateful if you opt in at the website and you sign up for a trial and you become a student and you stay all the way through Black Belt. I'm grateful if you never opt in. I'm grateful if you opt in and don't do a trial. I'm grateful if you opt in, do the trial, and don't sign up. I'm grateful if you opt in, do the trial, sign up, and stay for 3 months because gratitude is part of our culture. And it's not jurisdicted on how grateful I'm going to be towards a person or a teammate based upon how much money I can get out of you or how much productivity I can get out of you. But culturally, we're grateful. I found myself yesterday doing a lot of that, telling people how appreciative I am of them, how grateful I am of them, because culturally, it's our purpose. Are we living our best life when people feel appreciated? Am I living my best life when I'm expressing that gratitude? You see where I'm going with this? Now, for me, gratitude is a growth strategy, right? When I can show that appreciation, it strengthens our culture. It just, I'm finding right now, and this is ironic, but more and more people are inviting me to their birthday parties. Families inviting me to their kids' birthday party because I'm having such an impact on their children in their classes that they're looking to us as family, as somebody they deem they would want to invite to their kids' birthday party. Okay? So write this down. I want you to find at least 3 ways to express gratitude to your closest people, whether that's your significant other, your partner. I want you to find a way to express your gratitude to your team. I want you to find a way to express your gratitude to your students and families. Last Saturday, that Halloween party we did, oh man, a lot of gratitude going there because it was a retentional event. We don't use our Halloween party to get new students. No way. Uh-uh. Mm-mm. When I stayed at that elementary school until 7:15, that line was an hour long at that trunk or treat. When I did that last kid, their parents were so grateful. It was pitch dark. Everybody was gone. Every car had left. It was me, this kid, this dad. He was so grateful because they stood in that line for an hour. They were grateful I stayed. And you know what I said to them? And I'm so grateful you chose to wait. And I gave this kid so much love. We created this relationship, who a person I did not know. We expressed our gratitude to one another. So gratitude to me is one of my number one strategies to build our culture. I make it a habit, and you might as well. When somebody says to me, Brannon, how you doing today? My first response is, I am grateful. All the time. I am grateful. That's me. All day, every day. I am grateful. So again, it's a strategy and it makes me feel more positive, engaged. When I'm grateful, it gives me a platform to stand on and which facilitates the lack of fear for change. If I'm in this space of gratitude, I'm happy to take that gratitude into the next level. Right? So when your school's stagnant, you're stuck at 100 or 150 or 200, fundamentally there needs to be a mindset shift, right? From whatever mindset you're in to that next level. But the uncertainty of that next level and that mindset change needs to be rooted in some core values. And my core values will always be gratitude. Number one, gratitude, humility, right? Those are two life skills that I constantly work to master because all this uncertainty of this change going on in my business to get to that next level can be really scary, right? But again, I'm not afraid to fail because I'm grateful and I'm humble enough to whatever's going on in my life, right? I have this good, strong foundation. That to me has probably been the biggest. And you know me, service above self is a big one. So service and leadership is really important. I say it all the time. I'm proud. Both my guys own homes. They have kids. I just want to help them fulfill their dreams, right? How much money you need to make now if you choose to have 2 kids. I'm not concerned about how much I pay them. I'm concerned if they find and rely upon me to help fulfill their version of success. That to me is more important than anything. And I'll pay any amount of money for the freedom I experienced today, right? I used to live from a scarcity mindset, so I wanted to hoard all the profit. So I did all the work and I had to do it my way because I was a control freak, none of which works for me today at all. Cool. And then, of course, kindness, Kill them with kindness. Who's ever heard that one? Kill them with kindness. Anyone ever hear that? Super important. I don't know who wrote this. I say it all the time. Maybe you can look it up at ChatGPT, Marco. Who wrote, "Do not oppose force with force. Let the force defeat itself"? Look that up. If I said it, let me know that too, because it wouldn't be the first time. Would not be the first time. It's happened to me many times. Look it up, Marco. Who wrote, "Do not oppose force with force, but allow the force to defeat itself"? I think it was Ed Parker, but I could be totally wrong. It might be a Brannon. There's so much Brannonism out there because of all the social media I've posted over the years. Kind of trips me out when I look at it sometimes. Brannonism is what ChatGPT calls it. So that's important as well. If you're kind to people, it just radiates outwards into the world, and it's such a good day. It's such a good day. I can't express that enough. And then, of course, execution and performance. That's a big one for me, and it's not these big, grandiose brushstrokes. Whoa, whoa, whoa. It's really improving small systems for big results. Small, that 1%. We hear that all the time. The 1%, the 1%, the 1%. I'd rather take one little step forward than a giant leap forward and 30 steps back, right? And some days are going to be that way, don't get me wrong. But I'd rather take little baby steps and keep inching my way forward, than doing something rash or brash or out of my belief system just to think I'm moving forward quicker. And I've done that too. And I've lost a lot of money. I've burned some bridges, and I wasn't happy with the result, right? Another big one is simplicity. I'm huge. Simplicity is the key to mastery, right? It's not making things more complicated. If anything, it's simplifying them, right? It's simplifying them. I don't add more on my plate. If anything, I'm mindful what goes on my plate, the combination of food or thoughts, and the way we put that all together. Oh, there's a lot of stuff popping in here. What is all this, Marco? Let's see. Jiu-jitsu, don't oppose force with force. Never oppose force with force. Instead, absorb it and use it. Do not conquer the world with force, for force only causes resistance. But who wrote in those words, "Do not oppose force with force. Allow the force to defeat itself"? Because none of these is allow the force to defeat itself, Marco. Similar, but not the same. Just type in, "Do not oppose force with force, but allow the force to defeat itself." Okay? So for me, simplicity is the key. It's not doing more, it's actually doing less, but doing it better, right? Do less, do it better, which helps me get it done more efficiently. I'm really big on that. Um, I'm big on the feedback loop. It's not uncommon to see me design a graphic or write something, and I'm walking around the waiting area of one of our locations, and I'm asking a mom, "What do you think? What do you think? What do you think?" I even did that at one of my son's basketball games. I was working on a graphic in Canva. I'm in the stands. I showed it to mom and said, "What do you think?" Because that feedback loop, I like feedback. Feedback is real, real, real important, right? But some of us sit in these incubators and our mindset is so set, that we don't allow that feedback loop. We don't. It's a one-way relationship. And that feedback loop, this is how the creative flow goes, though. If there's a feedback loop and it's constantly doing this, it's picking up momentum. So you have an idea you're working on, and you have this, fluid feedback loop. It's going faster, faster, and faster. And that's how an idea builds up momentum. That's how an idea comes to fruition. You with me? You with me? So that one's important to me as well. And then for me, it's ownership, man. I take ownership of everything I do, every thought, every word, every action. I take full ownership. You've heard me say it a million times. 99% of what goes wrong in my business, my fault. The other 1% that goes on in my business, my fault. That's it. It's what I live and die by. And if I can do that, then I don't spend my energy and time pointing fingers, you. And when I did that as a child and well into adulthood, that victim mindset is a vicious cycle. I was a victim. I was a victim. I was a victim. So anything I did in my life, I never had to be accountable for. I always blamed my bad upbringing, the foster homes, the child abuse. I blamed all of that for the bad decisions I was making as a full grown adult. So again, until I was willing to get through the fear and take full accountability for myself and my own actions, only then could I begin to cultivate that mindset, because that fixed mindset of victimhood never got me anywhere. It sabotaged my success. It held me back. I never got to full fruition. Where I'm at today could not be if it wasn't for moving from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. Wouldn't be getting out of that comfort zone into where I am today. Cool. That was a big one today, Marco. That was a big one. So let's start by thanking our sponsors. Woo! Woo! And I hope you guys go back and listen to this one. Marco will post it. He's going to tell you guys you got to watch this one, because really, you're the leader of the band. Every day we wake up, you're your best friend, you're your worst enemy. You make or break things. You with me? So thank you to my sponsors, to Sam Market Muscles, my studio, Kids Love Life Skills, LC Accounting, Kin Creative, all people I work with, all people I respect, all people that are movers and shakers and making an impact in our industry and helping school owners get to the level of success they truly deserve. Come join us for It's Time Life Freedom, please. 1 day, 2 days, 4 days. Spend it with us. Make that pilgrimage. Take a leap of faith. Come be here. It will change your life. I promise you, it will change your life. Mark will put the link in there. Look for it. Look for it. Cool. Our It's Time group mentoring, good people doing good work, doing good things. You know, we're not consultants. A mentor is not a consultant. A consultant fixes one problem and says, see ya. A mentor is concerned about long-term relationship, long-term wealth building, long-term growing of your business. Huge difference. That's why we are not consultants. We are mentors, and we only do it as a group. Cool. He'll put the link for that. Check that out as well. Where to find me? Easy to find me. I'm everywhere. Right? You'll find me. This podcast is at Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and of course, YouTube. You can find it there. Follow me at Instagram. Join our Disruptor group. And for everything else, go to BrannonBeliso.com. Again, I want to thank you for today. You know, when I go into these types of topics, it does require me to be fearless. It requires me to be vulnerable. It requires me to pull back my own covers and be raw, you know, to the public, and to feel safe enough to do that, to have the courage to do that, lets me know I'm fulfilling my purpose of living my best life. Cool. So thank you for that today. Thank you, Marco, for holding down the fort. Happy Halloween to everybody. I hope you're going to have a great Halloween tonight. I know I will, with close to 400 people I know will be coming to our home for cotton candy and a big bag of candy that my wife creates. Cool. I am Brannon Beliso, folks. This is Success Never Sleeps. Until we talk again, please, please, please go out there, live your best life.